This week, the politics of corporate welfare. In a joint reporting project with The Pitch, we lay bare Kansas City's biggest tax incentive program. Why so generous to big companies while those most in need are being turned away? Plus, a life sentence for pot, now a free man. Once considered a boondoggle, are plans for one of Johnson County's most iconic buildings now becoming a reality. The New York Times says the murder rate in Kansas City has jumped twice as high as New York's, 5 times as high as Philadelphia, 6th highest homicide rate in the country. Is there more to the story? And unveiling Missouri's newest sports palace. The question is, are you willing to give $50 million of your state taxpayer money to keep the Rams in St. Louis? Welcome everyone, I'm Nick Haynes and thank you for joining us again on the program that goes beyond the soundbite and takes you behind the headlines, making news in Kansas City. Dissecting the news this week, the authors of our joint reporting project on TIFF, Pitch reporter Steve Vockrodt, and from the KCPT Hale Center for Journalism, investigative reporter Mike McGrath. Also with us this week, the senior writer for The Call, Eric Wesson, and star columnist and the host of Up to Date on KCUR-FM, Steve Kraske. This week, KCPT joins forces with The Pitch newspaper for an in-depth investigation into Kansas City's biggest tax incentive program, TIFF. It's this week's Pitch cover story. Back in the late 90s, TIFF helped transform a blighted area of Midtown to attract a Home Depot and a Costco. But what about the scores of other projects that have secured millions from the development tool since? From Burns & McDonnell tearing down a synagogue in South Kansas City to expand its headquarters, to the biggest TIFF project of all at the site of the old Bannister Mall, where Cerner is building the largest office development in the city's history. Politicians and economic development types like to say that the public just doesn't understand TIFF. They may be right, so we've put together a handy-dandy backgrounder. Does TIFF deliver on promises? On TIFF projects throughout Missouri, 185,000 promised, 67,000 delivered. Only 3 out of the 4 jobs promised in Kansas City materialized. How do backers then of TIFF defend those outcomes, Steve Vockrodt?
Well, they would point to places like downtown where, TIFF was lavished upon downtown, quite frankly, in the 2000s, and really transformed most of the South Loop and parts of the Crossroads Arts District. They will say that, the jobs that were created, even if they don't realize the amount that were promised, those are still new jobs to the area. They'll point to things like that. They'll be more reluctant to point to some of the things like the costs of TIFF and the effects that it has on school districts and libraries. Those types of effects are very heavily debated the more TIFF gets used. We saw the video there, Mike McGrath, of the Cerner Corporation's plans at the old Bannister Mall site, and you can see all those huge dollar figures in TIFF going to that project. But they're promising 6,000 jobs, the largest current economic development project in the state of Missouri. Isn't that a worthwhile trade-off for that much jobs, and high-paying jobs at that?
Well, I would think so, but we looked at the other side of it. At the same time, governments are giving a lot of money to corporations in form of tax breaks and other kinds of subsidies. Both Missouri and Kansas are at the forefront of cutting back on welfare dollars.
Okay, we're going to get into that issue. But what about the Cerner Corporation and that many jobs that are coming there? Isn't that a great defense, though, of why nobody was going to the Bannister Mall area?
Right, and absolutely, Nick. And a lot of people will say just what you're saying. Politicians, it seems to me these days, Nick, the promise of jobs trumps anything. If there's any one metric out there by which we measure the success or failure of politicians, it's did they create jobs? How many jobs did they create out there? Look at Governor Jay Nixon of Missouri. A business these days somewhere in the state announces the creation of 7 or 8 new jobs. Jay Nixon flies from Jefferson City to wherever that company is in Missouri to announce that. Jobs are really the gold in public service these days. So whatever it takes, they're willing to go there. It also seems to me that with TIF, you're not paying out of existing coffers. This is money that's promised down the road. It's not cutting into your current budget. It's what's to come down the road. And that's what makes this program so appealing to governors and mayors and everybody else.
And where are those projects going? Eric Wesson, it's part of the reporting this week. We see that 88% of all of the TIF projects that were awarded were in 3 of the 5 council area districts, or the 6. And the least amount going to the most impoverished areas, the 3rd and the 5th districts, which were most in need on the east side of Kansas City. So why isn't that happening?
Well, a lot of times developers don't want to go into that area because there's not enough rooftops. They think that if they go in there and do development, nobody will come. But I kind of want to back up to the job situation, and when we're talking about Cerner and the issues that are going on. You got a Kansas City, Missouri school district, and I guess the biggest key is how many of those jobs will come to Kansas City and from Kansas Cityans. Because when you look at the school district, it's got its issues. Cerner is a very technical company. So how many kids will qualify in 5 years to be working at Cerner? And when you look at the construction project now, you've got 0.09% of the people that are actually out there building the project that live in the Kansas City area. So I think that's the conversation that really needs to be had, because you have a city ordinance that says that Kansas Cityans should be the first people to get these jobs, and they're not giving them to the people that live in Kansas City metropolitan area. And then the minority participation numbers are dismal at best when you look at it, and the city's not enforcing things because there's no real contract with Cerner right now.
In your reporting, Steve, were you able to work out why so few projects end up on the east side, and is there a fix for that?
Well, it's kind of like what Eric said. The developers are less keen to go there because they will look at things like demographics and discretionary spending. So if you're going to say put a retail project up, even with the assistance from the government, are you going to be able to pull enough people from the outlying areas around that development to make the dollars and cents work? And I think that's what's really vexed the city's efforts to get grocery stores, for example.
But we had Mayor Mark Funkhauser, who made that a huge push when he was mayor, and we have Mayor Sly James, who has also made economic development on the east side a priority, yet we still don't see a huge number of projects that are getting TIF funding on the east side of Kansas City.
It seems to me the key word when it comes to TIF is the word blight, Nick. That's what these projects are supposed to correct. There are blighted areas around the metropolitan community. But what blight means to you might be different than what it means to Steve. And so you have, as a result, you have TIF projects on the Country Club Plaza. You have TIF projects where the new, the IKEA store went in Miriam. That's a TIF project. And, a lot of people might wonder about that. But also behind all this is the competitive aspect of TIF. If IKEA doesn't go to Miriam, then Kansas City, Missouri certainly wants it. So everyone's jumping on board to offer a TIF project because they want those jobs in their community.
So while people are critical then of TIF, isn't that the case that if say, for instance, Cerner didn't get all of that money to go to the Bannister Mall site, then they could just as easily have gone to one of those other communities around Kansas City, whether it be in Overland Park or in Blue Springs or Lee Summit, who would have been very happy to provide TIF funding, because even though we think about TIF as just a Kansas City issue, all of these other cities are providing it, Steve.
Well, as it relates to TIF, I would point out that the executives of Cerner had formed corporate entities that own the Bannister Mall site. So I think the discussion about how willing Cerner would have been to just take that same project and move it to Miriam or some other place, is maybe a little inflated.
All of this reporting, by the way, is in The Pitch on the front cover story this week. It's also on kcpt.org. While city and state governments have done little to control the flow of money going to corporations in big tax incentive programs like TIF, a lot has been happening, as Mike McGrath pointed out, of late, about cutting back on welfare for those on the margins of our society. Kansas Governor Sam Brownback recently signing into law some of the strictest welfare reform laws in the country, cutting the length of time recipients can claim benefits, expanding the list of prohibited items that welfare money can be spent. In Missouri, you may remember the push to block food stamp recipients from using their public aid to purchase cookies, chips, steak and seafood. But if the goal is to weed out abuse, is the best place to find money there? In this week's reporting collaboration, Mike McGrath reveals that Kansas ranks 36th in the nation for food stamp expenditures, but 6th in the nation for federal subsidies paid to farmers. That's $395 million versus $1 billion given to farmers. So why are lawmakers going after the smaller dollar value then, Mike?
I think they're trying to make a statement. The program that they've been concentrating on the most lately is TANF, which is cash assistance for the poorest of the poor. But if you look at the numbers over time, the number of TANF recipients in Kansas has declined from over 80,000 in 95 to around 15,000 families today. The program is going away. That's not so much because poverty is going away. It's because state legislators in both Missouri and Kansas have made TANF harder to qualify for.
So why is it easy to cut back on these programs, yet we're still generous on these other programs? Is it because when we see a business, or it may be farmers, we're thinking there may be jobs and economic development that is going to be grown as a result of that, Steve Kraske, whereas when we think of welfare recipients, we're thinking we're not getting that economic benefit?
Oh, I think that's a whole lot of it, Nick, that idea that we're handing money away as opposed to it being earned. You know, welfare has a long and difficult history in this country. This notion of handing money away has always been problematic. We're built on this notion that you can achieve whatever you think your potential will allow you to achieve in this country, and hard work will get you everywhere. So welfare has never been something that people smiled about. Lyndon Johnson wanted to get rid of it altogether, the war on poverty more than 50 years ago now. So that whole mindset plays into what we're talking about here. And certainly farmers are viewed as job producers and people who produce food. That's a good thing. So we can spend money that way.
Eric.
And I think that in addition to what Steve said, people unaware of what welfare is and how it does help people get on their feet in a lot of cases, because we get a stereotype of people being African American, they're being uneducated and so forth. So when you look at some people that have come out of that and become successful people, they don't show that as how a person worked their way up. But on the other hand, people don't know. People don't understand what TIFs are. If we can go back to TIFs for a minute. You've got billion-dollar, multi-million-dollar companies getting corporate handouts for building something in some place that we don't know whether or not it's going to be successful or not.
We don't know what TIF is, but we know what food stamps are.
We know what food stamps are. Exactly.
Yeah. All righty. As our weekend review continues, readers of the New York Times getting an alarming view of Kansas City this week in a story examining how murder rates are rising in big cities across America. The paper reports that the murder rate in Kansas City has jumped twice as high as New York's, 5 times as high as Philadelphia's, 6th highest homicide rate in the country. Is there more to this story, Steve Ockrott?
Well, I think some of the local officials were disputing the Times' findings. There was a meeting yesterday at City Hall where they were suggesting that the murder rate had not jumped up quite as high as the New York Times was suggesting.
Because they're saying 20% in that study.
Right, and they're saying also that if you pace out what might be the murder rate throughout the year, and even if it's a little bit higher than last year, it'll still be lower than the preceding 5-7 years.
So there isn't anything to be concerned about, Eric?
Well, there's always something to be concerned about when people are out killing little kids and shooting people. But I don't think it's as alarming as some of the people say it is. I think you got a homicide count different between this year and last year, but it's still something to pay attention to because now it seems like it's on an upswing.
Steve?
Of course you pay attention to it, but here's some numbers, Nick. I had some problems with what the New York Times reported. 56 homicides so far this year, 51 in 2014 as of this morning. That's a difference of 5 homicides, not that much. In St. Louis, the number of homicides are up by, 51 homicides this year. We're 5. So the percentage looks like a lot because last year's homicide total in Kansas City was the lowest we'd had here in decades. So any increase is going to look like a whole lot more than maybe it actually is.
Well, you mentioned St. Louis. Let's talk about that for a moment. With the owner of the St. Louis Rams threatening to move the franchise to Los Angeles, could you be on the hook to try and keep the NFL team in St. Louis at a brand new $1 billion stadium on the city's riverfront? Design plans for that new stadium revealed this week. Supporters of the project seeking $50 million in state aid to help fund it. How is that being received by lawmakers, Steve?
Not very well, Nick. Lots of Republicans who control the General Assembly having big issues with what Governor Nixon is doing. They're saying now that they're going to oppose the payment on these bonds if, in fact, the stadium deal goes through and these bonds get issued. They're saying there was no vote in the General Assembly. The public hasn't voted on this thing, and the people of Missouri shouldn't be on the hook for this the way it stands right now.
So this is not just a St. Louis story. This has implications for us right here in Kansas City because it would be our tax dollars involved, Steve.
Right, that's correct. And I would even mention there's a linkage to this and the TIF reporting I've done, because in TIF, you redirect a portion of sales taxes into TIF projects. But in Kansas City, one tax that's exempt from that is the sales tax that goes to the Truman Sports Complex. There's always an appetite to fund public stadiums when it comes to politicians. This latest proposal, I don't sense, has the desire that it would have if, say, the Chiefs were involved.
Does it also have a link to your welfare reporting, Mike McGraw? Because I'm thinking some of these owners may need a little bit of a handout, a little bit of a help up.
Probably it does, but the fascinating thing to me about these stadium subsidies is that we've seen these economic studies over time. Every dollar spent at Kauffman rolls over 5 or 6 or 7 times, but economists, scholarly economists at universities have said, this is just, fiction. That they don't roll over that often, and it's not worth what we're investing in them. But that's taking away the local pride of having these teams here, which is, what, priceless, Steve?
It appears to be, Well, State Senator Ryan Silvies, a Kansas City Republican, came out this week with a letter, very harsh letter directed at Governor Jay Nixon about all this. And in that letter, he pointed out that a few years ago when Kansas City wanted money for its stadiums, the General Assembly sort of hemmed and hawed on it. And even Senator Silvey, who was then a state rep, came out against it. Local taxpayers ended up footing the bill for the Kansas City improvements. He's suggesting that maybe St. Louis should think about the same thing.
Eric.
And you have to pay $25 to park in those stadiums, too.
On county-owned property.
On county-owned property. Then you buy a hot dog, it's what, $7 for a hot dog? It's ridiculous. And these are millionaires that are having a playground for other millionaires. And then you want people to subsidize it. The tax breaks that they get and the revenue that they generate off of sports jerseys, memorabilia, all of that stuff should go into the pot to help pay for those stadiums and not taxpayers.
If you want to answer the question about how popular this proposal is, I think the answer lies in the backflips that Nixon's office is doing and the local authorities in St. Louis are doing to keep the public from voting on this.
We're going to move over to Kansas right now, where the fate of the iconic former King Louis bowling alley in Johnson County came into sharper focus this week as the county revealed to the public their plans for transforming the building into the new Johnson County Arts and Heritage Center. It'll house the Johnson County Museum, become a winter home for theater in the park, and be a place for advanced voting and a community gathering space. Now, does this involve TIF, or is this being funded in a different way, Steve?
No, there's no TIF here.
Okay.
The county owns it. It's being debt financed. The price of construction is $22 million, but when you factor in the cost of financing, it's more like a $30 million project.
Now, this was going to be originally envisioned as the Museum of Suburbia, a national museum of suburbia. That was fallen by the wayside. A lot of people were complaining about this. But now you can see some glamorous pictures of what this might look like. Now that they purchased this building, they've got the designs. Is this a foregone conclusion at this point, Steve?
Well, it looks like it, Nick. Again, they've approved the bonds, $21.7 million, I think, to get this done. So It looks like it's on its way. It's going to be a spectacular looking building, interesting lighting, all of this stuff. I guess the question I have in my mind is, are people really going to go to this place as a gathering point in northern Johnson County? You're going to have offices there. It's going to be a site for advanced voting. And then it'll also be a Johnson County museum of one kind or another. Maybe the electric home might be stashed inside of it or not. Is this going to be a big drawing card for Johnson Countyans and people in the vicinity? I'm not sure.
A man sentenced to life in prison without parole on marijuana-related charges walked out of a Missouri prison a free man this week after spending 21 years behind bars.
It's a shame. There's people in here that are in here for molesting children, and I've seen them come, go, and come again, and go.
The release of Jeff Mizanski followed years of lobbying from family, lawmakers and advocates for the legislation of marijuana, or the legalization rather, who argued that the sentence was too stiff. You have a tough-on-crime Jay Nixon commuting his sentence. Does this case mean Missouri is ready to change its laws governing the use of marijuana? Or should we not read too much into one isolated case, Steve?
I don't know if this case is really the the balloon that's going to go up in the air for Missouri's marijuana laws. I think what is more likely to happen is more states start to come around to this idea, as Colorado and Washington have, of legalizing marijuana, and the money involved potentially for state coffers. I think that's what's really going to trigger states thinking in a different direction on marijuana laws.
This was not one, by the way, case of him just smoking pot. There were 3 charges involved here, so this was not just an innocent man, but yet he was serving a life sentence. And you're always involved in a lot of these criminal justice issues, Mike McGrath.
I think this is more about criminal justice reform than it is about marijuana being legalized in Missouri. I mean, the presidential candidates are talking about how we were almost too tough now on crime in the 90s. We put away too many people. It's now costing us a huge amount of money to house these people. And when you hear the presidential candidates talk about it on the Republican side in a big way, they're saying, well, maybe we went too far. And I think this is one of the things we see in response to that.
Does it change, you think, any reality with regards to changing laws in the state of Missouri with regards to marijuana?
Well, I don't know about marijuana, but I agree that it's going to be a conversation that needs to be had about sentence reform. He was under the 3 strikes, you're out, the 3 laws. You know, do you want to lock somebody up for the rest of their lives? I think California had some cases where somebody stole a pizza and they were going to be doing a life sentence. So I think it's the conversation now about how strict and when do we apply the 3 strikes, you're out law, and if it even still needs to be applied.
Steve.
I think that's so right, absolutely so right. It does raise philosophical questions in my mind about these absolute sentences. Life without parole for marijuana. Even when he was sentenced, California was passing a medicinal marijuana law, so things have begun to change there. You wonder about these absolute dead-end sentences, even like capital punishment, Nick, at a time when society is clearly changing its mind about that. How right is it to put people to death at a time when we're rethinking these very important issues?
One of the sound bites he had said that he wasn't smoking any more weed, but he was going to help get the law changed. So he was going to work with people to make it legal in the state of Missouri. So I don't know if he's going to be the poster boy for that, but I do know that he said he's not smoking any more weed.
Now, isn't there a referendum issue that is going to appear on the Missouri statewide ballot, though, regarding legalization of marijuana?
There's a group working to get that in on the ballot for 2016. I know that.
But getting enough names on a petition, Nick, that's a big challenge, and whether it actually appears on the ballot remains to be seen.
Okay. When you think of Kansas City, you think barbecue, fountains, jazz. But how much do you really know about the city's jazz history? We like to point you in the direction of good work, wherever it comes from. And for the last 9 months, our friends at Channel 41 have been immersing themselves in that overlooked side of our past. You can see the documentary Kansas City and All That Jazz Tuesday night at 9 on 41 Action News. Eric Weston, actually, you're one of the voiceover talents in this documentary. But, you know, the head of Channel 41 News I was out at the screener for this event, said, you know, everybody can name everything about barbecue in Kansas City and they can tell you all about baseball. But when it comes to jazz, most people can't tell you anything about it.
Right. And we don't, in Kansas City, which is Jazz City, We don't even have a jazz radio station anymore. But a lot of people don't know the history of Charlie Parker and the various artists that have been on 18th Street. So it'll be an interesting documentary, I'm sure.
So kudos to Channel 41 for taking on this project. You are a huge jazz fan, Steve.
Yeah, it's about time Kansas City begins to recognize itself in this way.
But we never support it fully, though, do we?
We don't. You know, you go to clubs and they're not that crowded, and I think the music is just incredible, and for my money, it's just the way to go, Nick.
Now, as we are talking about jazz, you know, the Jazz Museum just, lost its, as the abrupt departure of the head of the 18th and Vine Jazz Museum, Ralph Reed, a former executive at Sprint, now in the interim role. Is he going to stay there, or is there a new, they're going to be bringing in a brand new national leader to come into the Jazz Museum?
Well, rumor they would like for him to stay, but he just retired from Sprint. He's got grandkids, probably wants to play with them. So, but people like Ralph, and he knows how to get money. He's got a great donor list, so I think they'll try to persuade him into staying.
Is the 18th and Vine Jazz District a TIFF project, Steve?
That's been a few different kinds of projects, but not TIFF. But there has
Perhaps that's now the time for that.
Well, there's some things that are probably going to be coming up in 18th and Vine before too long.
Things are percolating.
Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely some plans coming up. But that's been a huge recipient of city money over the years, and that's it's not really delivered as they've hoped.
They had a TIF for the parking lot there on 18th and Woodland. They had a TIF for that parking lot, and they let it close.
Scrapped it, yeah.
Okay. Our thanks then to our news reviewers this week, to the Pitch reporter Steve Vokrot and Eric Wesson from The Call, again, one of the voice talents in that Kansas City jazz documentary. Steve Kraske just dreams about jazz. He's a huge fan. So are we of Up to Date, the show he hosts weekdays from 11 to noon on KCUR-FM. And our thanks to Mike McGrath, who is Steve's former colleague at the Kansas City Star, now on duty in the KCPT Hale Center for Journalism. And I'm simply Nick Haynes. From all of us here at KCPT, thank you for spending part of your holiday weekend with us.